Hello everyone, Sheik here with another Transformers review, and today I'll be reviewing the third-party Shigeru Ningyo Do 08S, The One, their take on Shattered Glass Optimus Prime. And boy oh boy, this guy looks really cool right out of the box. I will say, however, that, well, he's pretty problematic. Normally I would start off in robot mode. Normally that's the way I love to do these, is to start off in robot mode, or the mode, or at least the mode they come packaged in, and then go from there. But this guy looks pretty cool, but as you can see, he's not quite sitting in his vehicle mode properly. There's probably something that I screwed up that isn't quite lined up properly. But this guy, it's probably one of the hardest transformations that I have had to deal with in a very long time. Not necessarily because it's too many steps, or because of well, there's just a few things that cause it to be problematic. One, the instruction booklet, it's a little small, so some of the pictures are kind of small, hard to see. And then also a lot of it is that some of these pieces, like underneath here, have a tendency to pop off. This is kind of where his waist ends up in robot mode, and they popped off. Maybe when I transform back into robot mode, I'll pop them off deliberately and super glue them on so that they don't pop off in the future and get lost. And then there's another part internally in here that is slightly too big for the tab to fit properly into its position, and it's might be one of the reasons why not everything's lining up properly. But what's funny is it's on this side where it's not tabbed in, so it seems kind of funny that this is the side that looks the most, well, out of whack. The transformation, like I said, is pretty complicated, and also it looks like these panels did pop out, come untabbed, but they tab into the legs. And yeah, that one just popped right back out. So yeah, it's definitely, there's something not quite lined up properly. Not sure exactly what that is, but I did finally manage to get this guy properly, or mostly properly transformed yesterday, I do believe it was. And the main downside is that this is the first time in probably ages where I felt like I wanted to actually throw this guy. Like, if I didn't stop and just take a break and come back to it the next day, this might have ended up thrown against something, which is one thing that I don't ever want to do, because, you know, these things are kind of pricey. Now, this one I did get on clearance from TF store, so if this guy is normally that difficult, it might explain why not very many people bought it. Or I don't know if or maybe it's just because it's Shattered Glass Optimus Prime. I'm not sure which, but it would not surprise me if just the sheer difficulty of this figure is the reason why it was on clearance. And then a lot of it is, it's not even necessarily, like I said, the number of steps. It's just that it's very finicky. The clearances are very small, and it can be very difficult to see inside of where all the, well, essentially where things are supposed to tab in. And that's like, you can't see where it's supposed to go because it's dark, and you can't exactly get light in there because the part that you're trying to tab in is blocking the light. So it's, then you just have to hope that it will tab into place properly. Like, that's why I'm starting off in vehicle mode, because there's no guarantee that I'm going to be able to get him back into his vehicle mode. So at the very least, I wanted to be able to show off his vehicle mode and his robot mode. He does have 6 rubber tires, which is really nice. I do like that. They're screwed on. These are also rubber, but they're very narrow, and they spin pretty well, although getting them to stay in position is a little tricky because there's just a little tab holding it in up there. And then they also slide forward on that joint right there, and if you're not careful, it will slide back out of position and get in the way of these panels right here. They do use die cast in this guy, like die cast here and here, and also die cast in the feet as well. There's a decent amount, not a huge amount, but enough. Like, this guy does feel slightly hefty, and I like the, I wouldn't say it's my favorite truck mode. It does give feeling of the Generations Optimus Prime, or Universe Optimus Prime, where it had the cab up here that turned into a sleeping cab that turned into a weapon or a shield or something. And also the mirrors are die cast, so you don't have to worry about those snapping off really easily. I mean, it's possible it could still snap off from the plastic, but at least you don't have to worry about these tiny little connections breaking. Okay, I think that's about it for the truck mode, so I'm gonna give it a shot, getting them back into robot mode. Oh boy, that was definitely one of the most difficult transformations I've done in reverse. Yeah, and if you didn't notice, his head also does not like to stay on very well. It's not pinned in, it doesn't have a nice sturdy ball joint, it's just two little pin nubs on either side that his head snaps onto, like some of those mainline figures that have elbows are always going to pop off because it's a similar joint. Yeah, that's him there, but with his head. So yeah, it came off, I guess, after I got him into truck mode, and yeah, it just fell out when I took off the hood. One thing that I did notice I missed on the legs was getting this flush with here. All you do is just press up on it and get it lined up, and it does look nice. Like, I will say, this design is pretty cool. Like, it does look nice. I do like it. It's just, man, it is like one of the hardest transformations I've ever had to deal with. It's mostly just the legs, like okay, well, a lot of it's hard. There's parts that are hard with the getting the arms into position for vehicle mode, and then I think the hardest part, at least with the legs specifically, is getting these flipped around, because it feels like you're going to stress it or break it, because you kind of have to flex the plastic ever so slightly to get it to fully flip around, and that is just scary to me. And I do think it's cool that they have faux wheels up here to be the ones that are actually hidden inside the waist. And then these are the four pieces I mentioned that some of them have a tendency to pop off. It looks like this one, maybe the reason why it popped off is because it's slightly warped. I'm not sure, but also at the same time I'm hesitant to glue them, because what happens if I glue them on wrong or the glue leaks into a part that's supposed to move? That's one of the fears of when it comes to action figures, especially Transformers. But the aesthetic is pretty cool. I do like it. And I guess before I show off his accessories, I'll show off his articulation, hopefully without his head popping off. So the head is not on a ball joint, as mentioned. It is on a hinge with a pivot at the bottom, and I think you're supposed to be able to get a little bit more, but you can look up and down just a bit, and I do like that detail. Definitely looks kind of evil, which is probably the point. I'm not sure what the coloration of the face is on the Optimus Prime variant. The color, I'm sure the shape is the same. And also another thing you can do if you want is you can angle the antennae back if you want. Keep them straight up. It's just up to personal preference on whether or not you want to do that. And of course that can do a full 360. It's very stiff, and with the way that is, and you do have to rotate around for transformation, but it is a bit of a pain. The arms can go out that far. I will say that this guy does feel more like an action figure than a transformer, which is why I think it's pretty cool that he can actually transform. Well, albeit very difficult, but arms can do a full 360. You do get bicep rotation. You do get way over 9-degree bend at the elbow. Quite impressive there, although it does kind of mess with the hinge for the faux wheel. Wrist can rotate. There is a little bit of bend. You can and then also the fingers do open up on a single hinge, which I do like, although I will say the ball joint for the thumb is extremely loose, and even more so on this hand, and I might end up carefully popping them off at some point and putting nail polish on the thumb ball joint so that they don't hopefully get lost or something. Let's see, waist can do, I'm sure it can do a full rotation, but it does catch on some stuff a little bit. It does look like if you're not careful, it will pop some of that out of alignment for the torso. You don't exactly get an ab crunch, but you can flex it just a little bit, but I'd say probably want to not do that because it'll probably pop something loose in there. Let's see, let's go ahead and get his arms up. He can sort of do the full splits if you angle, you have to kind of angle his leg to get behind that, and then you can pretty much get him almost in the full splits position, but it is tricky because if you have it forward like this, it catches on that flap right there, which I think is kind of ingenious the way they do the flaps so that you can get a full range of articulation, but also still have that waist. Look, he can kick forward very far because of this ingenious little joint there. At first I thought it was for transformation, but no, it's not. It's just for extra high kick Optimus, which I think that is so cool. And then if you flip the butt flaps back, he can kick that far back, so that's pretty cool. I will say, like I said, this guy feels more like a really articulated action figure than he does a transformer, which is why he's probably so difficult, like I said, to transform. When I first opened him up, I was opening up between him and another one that I gotten, and I was like, oh, he's smaller, he looks a little simpler, so he'll probably be pretty easy. Boy, was I wrong. Hopefully the other one that looks like it should be more complicated is simpler. Anyway, thigh rotation, nice and stiff. Over 9-degree bend at the knee, so he looks like he can pretty much do butt kicks if you want to, but not quite. And then you do have ankle tiltage, which is pretty nice, and you can also bend the toes like that, so that is actually really cool that you get toe articulation right there, and it feels nice and sturdy, at least for now anyway. So that's pretty much it for the articulation. One more thing you can do with his robot mode, which I think is pretty cool, and then also looks like that's not lining up, although it is kind of tricky. And then also I have a feeling that for whatever reason, even now it's kind of crooked looking. I don't know exactly why. I can't remember if before I transformed him when he was in robot mode, if that was a problem and I just didn't notice it. We'll never know at this point, but it doesn't want to stay in place. But he does have a matrix chamber, and there it goes, popping up his head a little bit, but he does have a matrix chamber, which I think is really cool. It is die cast, although as of yet I haven't gotten it out, and I don't really want to reach a knife in there scraping at trying to get it out when I'm not even sure you can really hold it because like I said, all those fingers are together. But I think that is really cool to have there. So let's go ahead and get his chest closed up and hopefully get his head panel back it down so that his whole upper part doesn't go crazy. Then let's go ahead and get the windshield closed up again. I do like the shattered detail that they include there. I don't remember. I know enough about the Shattered Glass universe to know that I would love to read all the comics, but I really don't know that much about it, and I would love for them to actually do either a few if in one of the shows like a special where it's like the mirror universe, where it's like maybe 2 or 3 episodes, or maybe even crazy and do 4 episodes where they're interacting with their evil counterparts. Like, I would love that so much, where like the Autobots of our universe are helping out the Decepticons of their universe. Oh man, that'd just be really cool. Anyway, enough rambling about that. This review is already pretty long because of all the issues of transformation and there's a lot to him. Like he's deceptively simple. There we go. That's the word I want to use. Deceptively simple, or words, I should say, that I want to use to describe this guy. He does come with an ion blaster, or Prime's blaster, just solid black plastic, and he can hold it. Just go ahead and move his thumb out of the way. It is, like most of these, kind of tricky to get situated just right, but as soon as you get tabbed in, it tends to hold in pretty well. And there he is with his blaster, and I think that's actually pretty cool. Now here is a pose that's nearly impossible with most mainline figures because they do not have the toe bend. Like it's not a super impressive pose, but just the fact that his back of his foot and his knee is bent like this, with the foot bent like that, like it looks more dynamic. He's in motion and all that. It's so cool. I will admit, since the hand doesn't have any other joints, it does look a little odd with the hand. You'd have to do it like that for it to not look too unnatural. But oh man, this is so cool. Like I said, this guy does feel more like a super articulated action figure, more than a transformer, which honestly, I'm probably going to mostly keep him in his robot mode, because although his truck mode is kind of cool, it's just, another generic truck to me, especially a generic Prime truck. Like, honestly, if it wasn't for the fact that it was Shattered Glass Optimus Prime style, I probably would have never gotten him, even if he was on clearance. Mainly just because there's so many Optimus Primes. I already have a decent number, not as much as I used to, but man, I have like Missing Link, a reissue of G1, Earthrise, Commander Class, and then I think a couple of Bayverse ones, RID, Armada Legacy, what else? Earthspark. I have so many Optimus Prime, so it's like it doesn't really make sense for me to get just another generic evergreen style look Optimus Prime, but I think that this is a neato exception to that, because it's not exactly Optimus Prime. It is, but it isn't. He does come with 2 Energon sword blades, which are pretty cool. You just to get them on, it makes it a little easier if you just, and they're good. I guess oh, come on. Well, handling him is a little wonky at times, but yeah, I guess his shoulder isn't strong enough to hold his whole body weight, but you just tab it in like that. And same for the other side. It's just you tab them into place, and it does. And I have a feeling this is probably inspired by the movie verse, the Bayverse Optimus Prime. There you are. Get that tabbed in. And now he has his Energon swords, which are pretty cool. I must say that they do look a little short and stubby, but I mean, it is cool. It is kind of cool, but it doesn't look too impressive. But I have a feeling, being I guess in this case, a Decepticon, seeing Optimus coming at you with these glowing Energon blades would probably be terrifying, because he's without mercy and all that, and probably a terrible, like, that's one thing about Optimus Prime. Like, Optimus Prime, he is an extremely good fighter, but what honestly makes him in some ways appear weaker than Megatron is that he's not willing to do certain things if it means harming the innocent or anything like that. Or causing too much collateral damage. Like, he does his best to avoid stuff like that. So imagine how terrible of a fighter he would be if he had none of those restraints. Anyway, the rest of his accessories, oh, come on. Yep. See, this is one of the parts that tends to untab, is like right in there. Just right there we are. Get that back into place. Nope, it's still not. There we are. But now that, yeah, but he is pretty cool. Okay, I've been going on enough. Like, I have very mixed feelings about this guy, but let's get his hands off. He does come with alternate hands. These are not articulated at all, but he does have a pointing hand. So I guess he can point and give orders or something. Pointing finger. Don't point at people, it's rude. And then he has just standard fists that can't hold anything. It's just a balled up fist, which I think is a little pointless unless you're just, hey, I don't want him to hold anything and I don't want to risk losing that thumb. That might be something you want to do, is just have a fist and then have this hand or something, or one of the hands on to hold his gun. And then, of course, one that, that's what I should have done for that. Put on, for that pose, put this hand on, and then have him holding the gun with the other hand. But yeah, that's pretty much it for his hands. I will say the hands do feel a little big. Let's see, in comparison to these, but I mean, I think it is somewhat realistic scale if these were fully extended. So I guess it's not that bad, but here it looks like, I don't know, let's see, what could he be beckoning? Not exactly beckoning, but maybe giving a speech, orating, I don't know. I don't know if this Optimus is really much for giving speeches, and I'm sure if he does give speeches, they're probably pretty terrifying. I really wanted to love this guy so very much. Like, I really do love his robot mode. His robot mode is absolutely stunning. It's so awesome. It doesn't even look like he should be able to transform. Obviously, he's a Transformer, but he doesn't really look like he should be a Transformer. Just an action figure of a Transformer. He should not have pieces falling off of him that should have been glued in during manufacturing. But other than that, I just love him for the robot mode. If only he was just sold as an action figure. But then I probably never bought him if he didn't transform. But I'm probably not going to really transform him. Anyway, if you liked this review and you'd like to see more, please click that like and subscribe button to see more. And until next time, have a good one, everyone.